Hello, everyone. I'm the Tipsy Toaster, and welcome to our very first Battlestar Galactica fan club broadcast. This show is for fans to share their talents and unique experiences, anything with Battlestar Galactica related. Our first episode is going to spotlight a science fiction fan and artist I met on Facebook with a very unique talent. He takes simple paper and creates unbelievable science fiction movie memorabilia from it. He's going to talk about how he does it, and kind of like why he does it, and how you can get involved also. So today I want to welcome Chris Tucker onto the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Basically, huge sci-fi geek. Both my mom and I. We'd watch all the different sci-fi programs, Battlestar Galactica, of course, Buck Rogers, Star Trek, Star Wars. The list goes on. Now I live in a very, very small town just south of Salem, Oregon, called Independence, with a very wonderful woman, my fiance. And I work as a paralegal.
Okay. So what's your favorite science fiction show?
Well, actually, I have a few of them.
Can't have just one.
Well, no, you cannot have just one. Kind of like the Lay's potato chips. Anyhow, but mostly, if I had to pick a particular one, it would be both Battlestar Galactica and Buck Rogers. So yes, I know that's two, but it's from the same designer, Glenn Larson. But yeah, those two I would have to say are right now on my top favorites.
Okay. So how'd you get started in doing paper modeling? I mean, we're seeing some great pictures here. They're just amazing, by the way, and as they're rolling through. So how did you get started in this?
Well, like I had mentioned earlier, my mom was a single parent raising two boys, my brother and I. And unfortunately, we were very poor. My mom could not afford a lot of the cool toys that other kids had. And Battlestar Galactica came out in 1978. Well, the original one did, at least. And about 3 years later, I was 13 at the time. I wanted a Colonial Viper. Well, unfortunately, they were hard to find and quite expensive. So my mom was working at a convenience store at the time, and during the summer, I would help her with stocking the shelves and front-facing and all the cleanup stuff that she would normally have to do herself. But me helping her allowed her to stay at the registers. And she would pay me in store credit. Well, one particular day, she had asked me to get some cartons of cigarettes so that way she could fill the overhead bin that is over the registers. And I walked back out and I'm like, hey, Mom, can I have, and I just started listing a whole bunch of stuff. She goes, oh, time out. Why don't you just go get this stuff, bring it to the back counter, let me look at it, and then tell me why you need it or why you want it, and then we'll discuss it. Okay, cool. So I did, and I got stuff like hobby knives, because back then convenience stores sold hobby materials, like X-Acto knives, all the really cheap tester model stuff.
Right. I'm familiar with that stuff.
I would say cheap because cheaper than the professional stuff. But so I got I don't remember, a hobby knife, some scissors, mechanical pencil, ruler, protractor, a few other stuff like that. And she's looking at this stuff. She goes, "Why do you want this?" I says, "Well, I want this and the big box of cardboard in the back." She goes, "Why?" I says, "Because I have a project I want to do." Okay, if that's what you want. That's going to be your store credit for the week. I'm like, okay, cool. 13-year-old kid, back then,
Right.
that was like good as gold. And I believe that this was like on a Friday night, if I remember correctly. And so we got home, and I took all this stuff immediately to my bedroom, and I just started working. And I remember I had a little Star Wars action figure, and I'm thinking it was a stormtrooper, if I remember correctly. And as a reference guide, I had the Battlestar Galactica picture storybook that was from the first movie, or the pilot movie, I should say. And it had a really beautiful side view of the Colonial Viper. And I used that as a guide. And then the Stormtrooper I used as a scale reference. And so I built this Colonial Viper. Now, it was very crude in the respect of not refined. I mean, it had the basic shape, but no real discernible detail in it. I mean, you could make out the fuselage, you could make out each of the engines, the wings, the guns, that sort of stuff. I actually opened the canopy, popped the little stormtrooper inside the cockpit, and the cockpit itself, I mean, it did have some painted controls, but nothing, like I said, too detailed. And I brought it out to my mom, and I'm like, "Hey, Mom, take a look at this." And she looked at it, she goes, "Where did you get this?" I says, "Well, I built it." She goes, "From what?" I go, "The cardboard that we got from the store." She goes, You're joking." I go, "No." She goes, "Okay, can you build me a small one?" I says, "Well, how small do you want?" About 6 inches or so. So I went ahead and I brought all of my stuff out to the kitchen table, set everything up, and I started working. And my mom sat down across from me and just started asking me questions as to what I was doing, talk to me about structural integrity and why I'm laminating, which I didn't even know what the word laminating meant. All I know is I wanted to make the cardboard thicker.
Yes.
And so I learned a lot during my early years of making paper models. And I learned a lot about structural integrity, learned a lot about lamination, size proportion, and geometry for that matter. And it was actually quite interesting. And so I finally made this little model for her, and she took it to work with her, put it on top of the register, and all of her regular customers came in and go, "Hey, what is that?" "Oh, that's something that my son made." And she would sit there and she would talk up a storm to everyone who would listen about how I made this little Colonial Viper out of paper.
You gotta love
for
moms. Yeah, moms are like that.
She was really great about stuff like that, though, too. I mean, anytime I showed any kind of interest in anything, she was always there cheering me on and making me really think about what it was I was doing and spurred me on to learn more about it.
That's great.
But for the longest time, though, too, I thought I was literally the only one that ever did paper models. And through junior high and on into high school, I continued doing paper models. But after finishing high school and becoming an adult and doing all the adult stuff, I wound up quitting. And just because I didn't have the time.
Right.
And then in 2006, I had moved to Eastern Europe to become an English teacher. And I found myself having a lot of free time. Well, in Eastern Europe, there really is not much for expats or expatriates to do there. Unless, of course, you like to drink, which I'm not much of a drinker. I mean, I'll have the occasional Guinness or wine or mead, but I don't sit there and get drunk or whatever. But it's like I'm sitting there thinking, okay, so what am I going to do with my time? So I turned to the internet and I started looking for just diagrams, seeing if anyone had put out diagrams of the Colonial Viper or even the Buck Rogers Thunderfighter for that matter. And lo and behold, I came across this one website called paperaviation.de. It's a German site that had the original Buck Rogers Thunderfighter. And my face just lit up. I mean, I was a little kid all over again. And of course, I very quickly printed out the template or downloaded it and printed it out. First time I did it, it was absolutely rubbish. I mean, it was worse than a dog's dinner. And I studied it, tried to figure out what I did wrong. Once I figured it out, of course, I started doing a much better job. And that was the very first kit I had ever done. And then through some more research, I found out that there were forums about that specifically dealt with paper modeling and other such like that. One of them is www.zealot.com, and the other one is papermodelers.com.
Right. Well, actually, just so everybody knows, we'll put those up at the end of the show, so you'll have an idea where you can go for those.
And I very quickly realized that there is a whole global community of people that do paper models. And over time, I had met someone in Germany that designs paper models, mostly Battlestar Galactica and Buck Rogers. And he contacted me through private messaging on Zealot and said, hey, I need someone that can do test building for me. And I'm like, what? He says, well, I design paper models, but I need a third party to evaluate them, do beta testing. I'm like, okay, sure, why not? So I started beta testing for him, and now, well, not so much now, but while I was in Eastern Europe, I did a lot of beta testing for a lot of other designers all around the world. And basically how that works is that the designer will design said model. They will do an initial build of it, send the template and pictures of their build to me. I download the template, print it out, and build it. But as I'm building it, I take copious amounts of photos, copious amounts of notes as well, and send them back to the designer saying, okay, this works, this does not work. I would suggest making changes here or there, and these are the changes I'm suggesting. And then it just goes back and forth. And usually we talk on Skype like we are now. And after a while, the model is finished and it gets uploaded on the internet for free.
What's been your most difficult one?
Difficult, but challenging.
Oh, that's a good one.
I would say the most challenging one for me. There is this designer in Japan who made a Colonial Viper from the new Battlestar Galactica. It was a Viper Mark II. The thing is that he designed literally everything from the inside out. So you're building interior components as well, like the greatest system, the environmental system, the engines, the all kinds of other interesting and unusual components inside of it. And then you have the skins that actually go on top of that. Well, after he designed it, one of the guys on Zealot decided, hey, why don't we do a huge community-wide build thread, if you will, or build challenge, if you will. And basically the whole thing is that everybody built this model, but you put your own personal twist on it. You know, you build like a diorama around it. So it's like, okay, challenge accepted. I'm always up for a good challenge on stuff like this. So, well, I built it. Now, this is where really paying attention to instructions come into play. First and foremost, read everything before you start. Okay? I cannot say that strongly enough.
So these things do come with instructions, right?
Yes, they do. They and a lot of them come with written pre-instructions. And what I mean by that is they will sit there and make suggestions on the type of paper, the thickness of the paper, the texture of the paper, whatever else. Sometimes they'll even say, you know, you should add this or add that, or if you want it to look like my original version, do this or do that.
Right.
Okay, well, in this particular model, it specifically says in there, use 0.22 millimeter cardstock. Okay, and that's the thickness. Well, I did not pay attention to that. I wound up using 0.3 millimeter cardstock, or actually 0.33 millimeter cardstock.
It doesn't sound like that much of a difference.
Well, over time, it does. Because, okay, have you ever tried to have you ever done this challenge of where you take a nickel or any coin for that matter, and you sit there and you put small drops of water on it just to see how many drops of water it can hold before it overflows?
I think I did that in science class back in grade school, but...
Well, there you go. One little drop can make a big difference.
Oh boy.
Well, this did. And everything went together beautifully, except for one thing. I could not get the skins on the model. And I'm just sitting there thinking, frack. What am I going to do now? And the inspiration came to me. Well, let's do an overhaul. We're doing a complete, total, and utter overhaul of every single system, top to bottom, left to right, right to left, front, back, front, diagonally, inside out, whatever. So I left the skins off. And I had found there's a website for Epson printers, and you can download their racing. They have a bunch of models for their racing team. They have the actual cars. They have the racing pits. All kinds of stuff like that. They have little laptop computers, tool chests, tables, chairs, the whole 9 yards. So I decided to download all of that. And I grabbed different components from that and made a diorama of the model being overhauled. And even the little figures that are on there are also made of paper as well.
They are amazing. The detail on that is just it's just superb. I mean, it looks like, you know, the real thing. It's hard to imagine that you've done this, and I'm sure it takes a really long time to do all this. About how long did it take you to do that the diorama?
Well, about 4 hours a day, 7 days a week. A little over, I guess, like 2 months, maybe 3.
Wow, that's really great work. What kind of tools do you use to put these things together?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of tools that you can use, but to get started, if you're just gonna say, okay, you know what, tonight I'm gonna go to the hobby store, I'm gonna get my basic set of tools and start on this. Well, first off, any decent computer with any kind of graphics program like Microsoft Paint, GIMP. Also, you want Adobe Reader, because some of the files are in PDF format. Some of the files are in JPEG format. And Adobe Reader is free to download off the internet. Okay. And Microsoft Paint comes with literally all computers. I mean, that's kind of a standard program. And of course, everyone's able to view JPEG pictures as well. So that's one thing. You're also going to need a good printer. You don't need, now when I say good, okay, I'm not talking anything expensive or extravagant. You don't need it, okay?
Okay.
You just need a good inkjet. Now, you're wondering, okay, why inkjet? Well, simple, because with an inkjet printer, the ink actually permeates into the paper. Whereas a laser jet, the ink is just layered on top of the paper. And what happens is that when you are sitting there manipulating the paper, you're folding it, you're rolling.
Oh, yeah.
If it's an inkjet print, you're not going to lose the image. If it's a laser jet, all of that ink will flake off, and you wind up getting it all over your hands.
Instead of on the paper.
And you wind up with a really crappy model. Now, for other tools, any kind of hobby knife will do. X-Acto, Olfa, Fisker. I mean, you can even go down to your local hobby store, your local Walmart, Fred Meyer, Krieger, even Harbor Freight for that matter.
And my favorite place to go.
Oh, there you go. Mine too.
Cheap.
Indeed. And then, okay, so once you get your hobby knife, you'll want to use usually number 11 blades is the most common. Then you want a good pair of small scissors for like fine cutting and fine tuning different things. And for the gentlemen that are out there, this is going to sound odd, okay, but get some emery boards. And for God's sakes, do not steal your wives or your girlfriend's emery boards. You know what? Just go down to your local drugstore like Rite Aid or wherever. Go into the health and beauty aids, grab a pack of emery boards. There you go. Now you're wondering, okay, why do I need emery boards? Well, you're going to sand edges, okay, to kind of trim them up a little bit, especially if you're laminating thicker cardstock. Now, to get that nice shape that you want properly, and emery boards are a good thing to use. So, again, do not steal your wife's emery boards, okay? Come on, guys.
Oh, she'll get new ones.
Yeah, but you know what? You know, when you ask her, honey, can I get a sandwich, please?
Yeah.
That sandwich is probably going to be made of dog food, not regular lunch meat.
Right. So it doesn't sound like it's a very expensive hobby to get involved in.
No, it's not.
I got some links here.
You're also going to need some tweezers, some hemostats, you know, like cheap ones you can get at Harbor Freight, like this. Different small clamps. I mean, you can even use clothespins. Again, do not steal your wife's clothespins because she needs to do laundry. And if you steal her clothespins, she's not going to do your laundry. Let's see here. What else? I'm sitting here looking at my tool collection right now, and I've got a variety of different things.
Right.
You're going to need metal rulers because you need a good straight edge. And why I say metal is because sometimes if you're wanting to cut a really long edge, sometimes having that ruler, if you put it right on the cut line and you take your hobby knife and to cut that straight line, if you use a metal one, the blade's not going to cut into the ruler. Also a good compass, a drawing compass to make certain that the angles are good. And then a good cutting mat, of course, because you don't want to cut into your table or your wife's table.
Right.
Let's see here. What else? That's pretty much it for just simply starting out. You would also need And again, do not steal this from your wife or your mother or your grandmother, but get a couple of nice knitting needles. And the reason why is that you can use the knitting needles to make tubes out of the paper.
Ah, gotcha.
You wrap the paper around the knitting needle and you got a really nice tube. Not only that, but you can also use the tip of the knitting needle to score the fold lines. Make folding a lot easier.
Okay.
And you're not going to ruin the paper.
Right. So after I get all my tools, where's the? I've got some websites listed here of places to go. I know. I guess you're a moderator on one of them.
Actually, I'm the administrator, one of the administrators on Zealot.
All right. So it's we got Zealot, we got Paper Modelers. These are places I can go to get I guess plans and information.
Well, actually, with both Zealot and papermodelers.com, both of those are actually regular forums where you can talk with other modelers. There is a resource section or a download section in both forums where you can download models for free that other members have uploaded that they've designed. And yes, there are models available for both Battlestar Galactica and Buck Rogers. Just kind of a plug there. But the threads, there are a lot of threads there that are basically tutorials. There are build threads. And now, okay, you're probably wondering, okay, what the hell is a build thread? Well, it's quite simple. When a modeler builds a model, what they'll do is they will take photos every step of the way of building that model from beginning to end, and they'll start a thread of that particular build. And I've posted countless build threads on almost every single model I've ever built. And that does a number of different things. One, it shows, hey, guess what, guys? This is what I'm building. Second of all, it shows off my skills, my talents, my abilities. Mm-hmm. Yes, it is blowing my own horn. Okay, granted, yes. But at the same time, it also shows off different additional things that I've done to that model.
Right.
I've not just taken a base model and go, poof, here you go.
Right. So you're kind of able to give your own model, your own character to the model, your own pieces to it, and share those pieces. That's really
exactly. So it's kind of one of those things where some of these models have a lot of printed texture. Well, maybe I want to sit there and augment those printed textures and make them into physical textures. Well, that build thread will actually show how I did that. And yes, there's going to be some sort of commentary text with it saying, okay, here's this component, and I decided that I was going to recess the main part and then raise the center part, or vice versa, or whatever. And then you yourself, as the viewer, can sit there and go, you know, I really like that model that whoever did. And I like the techniques. I like the ideas that he or she came up with. I want to try my hand at that. So you yourself go ahead and you download that model, you print it out, and you pull up that build thread on your computer, and you basically use that build thread as your instructional guide, if you will, to build that particular model or as close to it as you can.
Well, that would be great for somebody just starting out to be able to go to one of those build threads and just, they'd probably say, "Hey, this is how I made this piece, and I use these tools, and this is
Mm-hmm.
the size. This is where I got this is where I got the that's almost a step by step process for somebody to go to one of those threads and do that."
It is. Now, um, honestly, though, I will tell you right now, and for everyone that is watching this, I always encourage people to get a constructive hobby. Okay. However, if you've never done this before, do not run out and buy the most challenging, most difficult model that you can find and go, I'm going to build this thing. No, you're not. I can guarantee you you're not. Now you're wondering, okay, why? Simple. Because it can be very frustrating when you really don't know what to do. You don't know what the different symbols are. You don't know what the different terms are. You don't know what the different acronyms are. And you're looking at this going, what the hell did I just get myself into? And then you're going to throw that in the rubbish bin. And then you're going to sit there going, you know what? I am never going to do this again.
Yeah, you get frustrated right off the bat when something doesn't turn out the exact way you envisioned it.
Exactly. And here's a rule that I have created for myself, and this is something that I strongly recommend to even the most advanced builder. When you get a model that you yourself, no matter what your skill level is, have never built before, build it once just as is. Do not add any additional parts. Do not augment it. Do not alter it. Nothing. Just build it the way the designer originally intended to. Now, reason for being, one, it gives you a familiarity with that model. You know what kind of space, internal space of that model you have. You know what you can do for future augmentation and detailing. You can sit there and figure out, okay, now looking at this model as a whole, I know that I have room inside to recess certain components, or I can sit there and I can raise other components, or whatever else. For instance, if you have a plane that does not have an interior cockpit, but you want to design one, if you build the model just as it is first, you can figure out, okay, I need to make these kind of adjustments to be able to do it.
Oops, I lost you. There we go. Oh yeah, so I've seen some of the interiors of these planes that you have, and some of the things, they're just amazing.
Thank you.
So we're gonna put the links to the places to go down at the bottom, and to get more information on this, they can come and I guess you have a tag. We'll put that tag down there at the bottom for them to go to the Zealot website. Raven Black is his tag, and I'll spell that out for you. It's kind of weird. Why not? Have you ever worked with plastic?
I have. I have worked with plastic models. I've also worked with sheet styrene. Now, interestingly enough, you can, in fact, if you want to, take the the paper model templates, and transfer them to sheet styrene and make the models that way if you want. You can also scratch build from sheet styrene, and yeah, it's fun. It's enjoyable. Now, one of the reasons why I prefer paper over plastic is, one, it's cheaper. I mean, it's tremendously cheap. Because especially with science fiction models, there are more science fiction models available in paper than there are all other mediums combined, including plastic, resin, wood, and so forth. Also, with plastic, plastic models in and of themselves are expensive. You're looking at anywhere from $20 on up. And if you're dealing with a model that is no longer available in print, and well, let's take the Thunder Fighter, for instance, my favorite. Okay, well, Monogram built that model several decades ago, and Monogram had a fire, destroyed the building, destroyed most of their molds. Revell finally bailed them out, but still, Revell is no longer is not making the Thunder Fighter anymore. So the Thunder Fighter model, and like I said, it's only one version of it. If you find it on eBay, and you're looking at about $100, if not more, for that particular model. Well, you can find the paper version. You can actually find all three versions on the internet in paper for free. You just download it. Your only cost is the paper, the ink, the glue, and a little bit of paint. Okay. Now, if you are building a plastic model of the Thunder Fighter and you break a component, well, you either A, make it a damaged diorama, battle damaged, or you better try and find another model and you wind up spending another $100, or you just throw the model away. With paper, if, say, for instance, I'm building a wing and the wing tears, well, I can either patch it together or I can print out another part sheets and cut out another wing, and there I go. And all I've lost with paper is just another sheet of paper, a little bit of ink, and a little bit of glue. And I still have the same model. And I can sit there and I can print out an entire fleet of these models over and over and over and over again. And honestly, I've built models like that, countless models, for friends and family as gifts.
What do you see yourself doing in the future in regards to paper modeling?
Well, when I came back from Eastern Europe, I was not able to bring my models with me. The shipping cost was exorbitant. And you're thinking, okay, well, paper, it doesn't weigh that much, it's pretty light, so it would not be expensive. Well, there's another component. Size. The size of the box was just, they also charge for size as well as weight. And again, it was just something I could not afford at the time. So I'm now rebuilding my entire collection all over again. And the cool thing is with that is that as I rebuild these models, I get to put in all of the details that I was not able to before, so I can actually make them better now. But my plans, what I plan to do with these is eventually I'd like to go to, I don't know, like the state fair or different conventions and be able to display these models and show them off to other people going, hey, look what I did. You can do them too. And also, too, go to my local library, display them there, and put on, like, I don't know, a day or maybe a full-on weekend seminar and teach both kids and adults about this hobby and get them interested in it as well. And then maybe go to like Michael's craft store and see if I can do the same thing there.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
that's yeah, those are yeah, it's a great idea to be able to, like you're saying, going to the library is something and doing just a show, not only to show off your artwork, almost like an art gallery show, but
right.
also you're putting into the hobby, saying, hey, here's what you can do with papers, so you can get that interest. But on top of that, you can bring back some of the interest in regards to the shows as well. I think
Exactly.
that's a really neat idea, is being able to say, hey, there's this show called Battlestar Galactica, because I mean, some of the kids nowadays don't even know what that is, other than the 2004 version, and some of the people don't even know what that one is, since it's
Exactly.
almost been gone for 10 years now. So, yeah, that's great. I want to really thank you for your time, spending time with us. Hopefully there'll be some more people. If anybody's interested in going and showing off their talents, their meetings, or their talents, meetings with celebrities, stories with celebrities. And your celebrities out there, that'd be great too. We can do those here on Battlestar Galactica fan club, so we can actually just kind of share the information across. I think it's important to go farther than just looking at somebody's post and hitting like. It's sometimes important to hear the stories, especially like your story, Chris, where you came from literally a challenge in your life where you couldn't get something, to creating it by yourself, to making it into a hobby that goes throughout your life and has made you a happier person in regards to it, and then think ways to honor other people with it. I really do appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Once again, if you want to contribute to the website, or you want to contribute to this will be on YouTube. Everything else, you can come and send me a text message, send me a instant message if you got a story that you want to share, you got a unique hobby. Please get with us and let me know, so we can put it out on the camera and let other people see the quality of your fandom and the quality of your artwork. Once again, thank you for joining. I'll see you next time.
Thank you.